Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to the Valley of the Judged. I am your one and only gaming monk, better known as Mildra, and with me is my good brother here in the temple, the man of 1,000 runes, the CEO of Zadari Enterprises, and the bane of my fucking existence, good brother Xanatrix.
Hello. Zadari Enterprises would like to remind you that we should not ourselves become overzealous in our search for truth and our search for freedom from the ideologues that try to destroy the hobbies we love so dearly. Yes, this is a reference to Mark Kern. I do not have any problems with Mark Kern. I just feel he may have been a little overzealous in saying that no one should play Helldivers 2 because of a bad community manager. Instead, he should be on the side of never play the PC version of Helldivers 2 because of the fact that it uses End-Protect GameGuard. For those of you who don't know what End-Protect GameGuard is, go look it up. It's a pretty shitty anti-cheat that doesn't do what it's supposed to and has so many vulnerabilities that hackers can get into your computer easily.
Mm-hmm. And for me, I would like to remind you. I would like to remind you all that perf- that feels like is not a valid argument, especially when saying that something is a good X but a bad Y is such a backhanded compliment that it is the equivalent of saying you speak so well.
He can only say that because he's black.
Fuck off. So last week we we had dived into the setting and some of the basics of Gods of Metal Ragnarok, as well as how the concept of the new metal gods is rife for exploration and homebrewing.
We had a
Now,
lot of fun making little theoreticals based on our favorite bands and vice versa.
we kind of dipped a little bit into character creation, but we didn't go all the way in. This time around,
Just
we're
the
going.
tip.
Yep, just the tip. Which in theory, you can say about every iceberg ever. Especially the ones that end up looking a bit phallic.
You know, if there was ever a town built on such an object, would it be called Dickburg?
Yes.
I can respect the hustle.
And if there was a power plant built on it, it would have big dick energy.
That makes me want to say that old meme song, but I can't. It would get your channel fucked.
But
For anyone who doesn't know, the world was built on N watts. I'll just leave it at that.
character creation, chapter 3, opens up with the title of How to Ditch Your Boring Ass Life and Become a Demigod.
I really like the quote at top from one of the in-universe avatars. How do you become an avatar? First step, hate yourself. After that, everything else falls into place. Clive Thunderpants, the shredder of the Angel Witch. Angel Witch is clearly a new god.
Yeah, and Angel Witch is there is a band called Angel Witch in that particular approach. Oh. So it opens up with, so, you want to be an avatar, huh? You ready to become the coolest, brutalist, spine-rippingest badass this side of the Abyssal Rift, are you? Well, strap in, because the world of Ragnarok is teeming with those plucked from Mundania to test their mettle in this rampaging and unfamiliar world. Groups of avatars have come together for adventure are called bands, and they are the go-getters, adventurers, mercenaries of this world whom you'll be playing as. In Gods of Metal Ragnarok, you are starting your epic adventure as a demigod. Even at notoriety 0, that is, fresh out of the umbilical descent, where nobody knows your name, you're likely stronger than any other characters in other fantasy RPGs, trademark. That said, this doesn't mean you're all-powerful and untouchable, though you should damn well act like it if you're gonna get anywhere. But, I mean, you're pretty great. Where some poor schlubs have spent decades or even lifetimes as denizens forced to earn power, you were born with it, baby.
Wait, is that? Do we need the Adam Cole button?
No.
Oh. I mean, it's even said the same way, though.
No, it isn't.
Oh.
I'll let you take the umbilical descent.
All right. The umbilical spiral is the bridge between the world of Mundania and that of Ragnarok, a one-way terminal where all avatars emerge. I'm guessing that spiral is either a part of the descent or another way to describe the descent, like a spiral staircase.
Mm-hmm.
If this is your first time playing the game and you want to jump headfirst like a baby goose into a pile of foxes, head over to page 184 and read the umbilical descent. Ah, okay. It's they're telling you to go over to the in-game adventure. It's a full session adventure that not only describes the worlds of Mundania and Ragnarok, but also creates characters for your entire group by the time it's completed. And there's actually an example given here. Ben and Markia are making Ragnarock characters. They've decided to start at a notoriety of 0 since they want to play newbies to the heavy metal fantasy scene. They first decide which Mundanian character embodies the flavor of suffering they want. Each sets aside half an hour to an hour to make their characters. Below, you'll find a short checklist of what you'll expect to find in the following pages, and the order in which you'll need to complete them. Mundania Origin, who you were before you became an avatar and what you'll be if you go back to Mundania. Tone, your lifestyle and godly affinity. Skills, how good you are at the things you do. Position, what role you'll serve in the band. That's important. Gear, 3 cool things you possess. Power moves, your special abilities. Answering the call, how you found yourself in Ragnarok. Get that playlist you've been working on for the occasion and let's go through the steps. Man, I would put on a heavy metal playlist just for character creation.
You know, I would, but one, I do that already, and two, in preparation for doing this series, I ended up listening to the playlist that Max Cacristi had set up for Against the Dark Master.
Oh, fun. I also see Kyoryu said that this is Be a Dick the RPG. No, this is Be the Badass the RPG. That's what heavy metal is all about. Come on now.
Mm-hmm. But then we have Mundania Origin. First, let's talk origins. In stories about great heroes, they say that behind every starry-eyed, ambitious adventurer is a scarred orphan, ambitious peasant, or groomed noble looking to take revenge on the rascal who torched his family's estate. Fuck that. The origins of the avatars of Ragnarok are those of boring, normal people. Folk who drive trucks, climb telephone poles, fire their secretaries, stop their secretaries, and bag groceries. Individuals who wait tables, mow the lawn, and have mortgages, or bodies to bury. People who wish they could be doing anything else with their lives right now besides the thing that they're doing. Why? Because they don't know the truth. The truth is that Mundania's lives are meaningless by design. They are being controlled by soulless automatons called the Executors, beings whose sole function is to pacify and repress the population in the name of their ancient deity. They hide in plain sight from the Mundanians, moving secretly among them in order to keep efficiency maximized. Mundanians are citizens of a land without ambition. Making your Mundanian too cool, too rebellious, or hardcore at the start of their journey would only cause them to be destroyed immediately by the Executors. That being said, you do need to make your character unique in a world that consists largely of boring-ass people. So think about what they dream of and what holds them back. Do they wish they could bull rush through a mob of cars during their morning commute? Do they daydream about ripping the face off of their supervising manager? Would a hobby give their tedious life meaning? Are they so desperate for a break that they could cry? Do they fantasize about flying over a busy street, swooping down just far enough to knock over a bunch of hot dog stands, and then watch the masses scramble for free street meat? Consider how they would womble the status quo to be more than who the Executors want them to be, and instead become the individual deep down inside they want to be. Another way to create a standout character is to consider what their ambitions are. In what way do they envision casting off the irons of their boring lives and donning the leather, spikes, and patches of their heavy metal fantasies? If only I could express myself, your character constantly muses. If only I could break away from those who have always told me no. If only I could do that with my hair. If only. A simple paragraph is usually enough to get a concept going. But if you enjoy chaos more than creativity, feel free to grab 5 D4s and roll them on the table of inspiration.
Before we go into the table, I have an answer to that sentence. Chaos is creativity. Fuck off.
Mm-mm. And then we have a set of sample origins.
5d4 means you can start at 4 and get up to 20.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the better examples here, I would say, are things like a scientist who is constantly dealing with peer reviews and budget cuts in their field, or a propane and propane accessories salesman, or a minimum wage worker who is barely making ends meet by working at a discount electronics store.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these are references to things.
I do love this one. A disgruntled cog who never gets cards or invites for drinks on their birthday, and people keep stealing their scissors.
I wonder what that could be a reference to. Can't possibly know what that reference is.
It's a mystery.
Or there's this one, a freezy vendor at the local convenience store who was not supposed to come in today.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I guess I'll take the next page.
Yep, creating your own origin.
Yep. To create your origin in Mundania, choose some of the basic things that make people, well, people. Name, what folks call your poor schmuck. Job, where the paycheck comes from. Tedium or suffering, what really sucks about their life. Righteous cause, what your schmuck would do if they had power. It's important to note that regardless of the occupation your Mundanian alter ego has, no job in Mundania is better than another. Only the executors have any real power and responsibility. A janitor who mops the floors at a local rest stop and a corporate executive are both equally as miserable and trapped under the thumb of the oppressive overlords. Each job in Mundania bestows an unbelievable amount of suffering and tedium on the worker, restraining their heart and dulling their soul. Sameness, quietness, and efficiency are prized above all other qualities. Extremes in any form are seen as highly dangerous disruptions. An overly productive and ambitious unit is just as problematic to management as an unruly and disruptive unit. Both threaten the carefully balanced work environment, and both will be disciplined if they are unable to regulate their output. But each Mundanian bears a spark of the chord of creation within them. Each Mundanian is a potential anomaly and a dangerous element within their regulated society. Mundanians hold the key to unlocking the godly Ragnarock power within them, waiting to be unleashed. Perhaps they've always known this. Perhaps they've just discovered it. Your Mundanian has never known a world that values change, but their spark tells them that there is more to life than sameness day after day. So give it to them. This isn't the time to play it safe with goals like, I guess my character might want a day off, or my dude's ambition is to own a modest but attractive home. Get fantastic. Go back to that character's 8-year-old self. Do they want to be an archaeologist? A monarch? Wolverine? Lean into that and never look back. Not all life choices may seem particularly metal to you right now. You just need a baseline from which to create an avatar. Put it another way, you need to know what your ugly-ass caterpillar looks like before you can even fathom the diamond-studded butterfly it's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I like that.
And then we have Mundanian backstories. What's that? Are you asking if your Mundanian character can have a backstory filled with intrigue and drama? Even if you're not asking that, hell, even if your mouth is full of saltwater taffy and you couldn't possibly utter an understandable statement if you tried, that's the question we're going to answer. I mean, basically the answer is no. Otherwise, why would they be in Ragnarock in the first place? But we'll elaborate. These Mundanians don't have to like metal. To be honest, they probably don't even know what metal is. The realm of Mundania is an oppressive and horribly bland place, and therefore heavy metal, if it existed there, would be highly illegal and a one-way ticket to Discipline Town. If you need this reiterated, Mundania is the most dismally boring plane of all the planes of existence. Every one of your adventures will be taking place in Ragnarock, not in this dung heap of a world. So if your avatar just conquered a kingdom and its surrounding lands in Ragnarock, then your Mundanian simultaneously was plodding through the pile of paperwork that's been sitting in their cubicle for 3 weeks. Mundanians don't have backstories of intrigue and drama. They have backlogs of paperwork. That's why they need an avatar and a chance at adventure in Ragnarock. Essentially, if anything remotely exciting happens to your dopey citizen in Mundania, and you can bet that their avatar will be doing something a billion times cooler in Ragnarok. In fact, any amount of excitement in Mundania can result on marks on your permanent record, and may eventually end your avatar's time in Ragnarok. I see what you're trying to say through that maw of marshmallows. Why do you keep shoving that sticky crap into your mouth right before you speak? Okay, fine. Can I make a brutal backstory? Go for it. In fact, give your Mundanians so many lemons that, upon their arrival in Ragnarok, their avatar can squeeze out a tsunami of lemonade goodness. Remember,
Or if they're Cave Johnson, squeeze out a tsunami of lemonade explosions.
Remember, this is a heavy metal fantasy game about rising above your societally dictated station to become the most bitchin' you imaginable. So go on and construct the tragic canvas on which you're going to paint your glorious heavy metal tale.
I know that you could take Righteous Causes too.
Yep.
It's a nice short section.
A righteous cause is the one thing that ties your Mundanian and Avatar together. It's a philosophy that guides both parties and their destiny in the world of Ragnarok. Mundanians believe in their righteous cause, and Avatars execute it. How your character keeps this cause close to their heart is up to you. It could be memorialized through a mantra, song lyric, or catchphrase. Truly anything, as long as it's something your Avatar and Mundanian truly believe in and want to see happen. Having a tough time coming up with a particular righteous cause? Well, we've got a table of examples for you. Every good RPG rulebook has tables, right? And we have some examples, a whole 22 of them.
I think some of these are I'm seeing some that I think are legally distinct fight the power references. Reach the untouchable, create the impossible. I mean, that's just do the impossible and touch the untouchable, straight up.
Yep. Have you already come up with better ones than these? Use them. Then send them to us so we can hang them on our fridges. Righteous causes affect the choices of that your character makes in Gods of Metal Ragnarok, and are a guiding light on the path toward their becoming an avatar. This mantra may come from a variety of sources in your character's backstory, but it should really capture the essence of who your avatar will become. Then we have tone.
Yep. The tone of an avatar is basically your Ragnarok fealty to one of the gods of metal, which helps shape and define their pathway, more of a core belief than any physical or cultural traits of your character. There are 6 core gods of metal, and as a result, there are 6 tones. Choosing one of these 6 tones directs your character's playstyle and provides them with certain mechanical benefits used in gameplay. Just to drive the point home, your tone is not your appearance or social sphere. Everyone in Ragnarok is an outsider, and no one cares about your race, gender, sexual preference, or attitude towards life. Being an avatar of metal means you've seen some shit, and you're bonded to other shit-seers through the core beliefs of your heavy metal tone. It also doesn't necessarily mean you're all friends, or that you even agree with each other, or even like each other. Hell, everyone in Ragnarok is just as likely to punch each other in the face as shake hands. But as far as the game goes, your avatar can look however the hell you want them to look. They can even resemble an FFE, fucking flimsy elf. See, that speaks to Monk and I directly. Fucking elves. You do you. To pick your tone, peruse the following pages and choose one of the 6 gods of metal, or if you're feeling ambitious, a new god. Then write down the immediate effects that your chosen tone provides to your avatar, as well as their glory questions, which you'll use to increase your notoriety down the road. Below, you'll find some overviews of the gods and what's expected of their avatar followers. You also find glory questions, which give an idea of what kind of questions the Metal Maestro might ask you at the end of each session in order to award glory, which we'll see later on page 112. And starting with the first page, we have Osnubaba and Diomedes. Osnubaba, you want to build the world up, if only so you can watch it burn. Followers of Osnubaba have the most broad and powerful set of domains. They are strange and mysterious, unknowable and terrifying. Avatars that walk the fractured path alongside the mad god often live a life of incoherence and illogic. So Osnubaba is just Azathoth.
Mm-hmm.
He's just the king of all of the eldritch gods. If we're going by that description, they even call him the Mad God. He's not the blind Mad God, because if he was, he wouldn't even be legally distinct of Azathoth. He'd be just Azathoth at that point. His domains are time, madness, and shadow. Yeah, it's Azathoth. Personification of doom metal, Black Sabbath, Candlemass, Mastodon.
Mastodon's more sludge than Doom.
But Monk, we called it when we talked about the gods last time. Definitely doom metal.
Mm-hmm.
The immediate benefits are +1 Magicka and +1 Slink. Power move is Visions. Avatars of Aznubaba are special. The call grows as the avatar gains notoriety, and the gift of Aznubaba leads many to peer through the veil of multiple realities into pure cosmos. Also, that Aznubaba is misspelled. It's missing the ba in the middle. Once per session, they can glean a great truth of the universe, which then can lead to useful information in the session from the Metal Maestro. Oh, it's a hint system. They have the ability to get a hint from the GM. Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Activation, anytime. Performance pool, none. The cost is 1 dedication and 1 hit on their meat track. So they cast from HP. And glory, technically.
Mm-hmm.
The glory questions for someone who might follow Aznubaba may be, how did you create a complication and have it work out in the end? What secret plan did you envision at the beginning of the session and see it come to fruition? What did you unleash that brought Ragnarock closer to doom? I also, Melodic Piper says, this sounds like a game that I'd like to try out. Trust me, I want to try it out.
Mm-hmm.
I am the Dragon of Chaos and Metal for a reason.
So
and then we have
Diomitius. I'll take this one.
No, Diomitius.
Diomitius, sorry. You know your roots, and you don't see any reason to stray from what works. The all-voice is god of glory and balance and flame. There is a clarity and swagger to Diomitius and the avatars that follow him. Natural leaders, followers of Diomitius, get things moving. They are explorers and will fearlessly trek into the unknown to win the day. They are energetic and dynamic, charismatic, charming, and churn with passion and drive for all things metal. Avatars... misspell. Bit of a typo there. Avatars of Diomitius want to see the world of Ragnarock and its denizens be the most brutal and awesome possible. Let's see, personification, power metal. Wait, they considered Black Sabbath both power metal and doom metal? That's weird.
Depending on what period of Sabbath you're talking about, they're right. After all, this god is named after Dio, Monk. Also, I'd like to point out that the domain section is not present for Diomitius, or any other god after this, which is weird. I think it was glory, balance, and flame. At the top there might be its domains, but I still think that if you're going to have domains like this, you should have them listed out. So that's a criticism that I think if you have domains on one of them, it should be on all of them. Or if you only have domains on one of them and that wasn't intended, you should remove it.
Yep. Let's see. Also, I don't consider Whitesnake or Metallica to be power metal.
Again, it really depends on what album, what period of time for Metallica. Like, Metallica has been general heavy metal forever, but there were points where they tried to do power metal, with varying amounts of success.
But then we have the immediate effects. They get +1 Forge and +1 Implore. They get the power move Burn Out. Avatars of the God of Fire often lose track of their own power and risk hurting those around them and themselves in infernos that are out of their control. The hottest fires of Diomitius cannot be resisted by even the most talented elementalist. If they do not learn caution regarding their abilities, everything burns as these avatars grow in power. If you roll any ones while doing an attack, and your weapon has fire primal energy, add an additional feedback to your feedback track. Can activate
Which,
it.
if everybody doesn't remember from when we talked about it earlier, feedback is a increasing failure cost mechanic almost.
Mm-hmm. Activation anytime, performance pool none, cost none. Then we have the glory questions. How did you make Ragnarock a more metal place to live? Did you unleash an anthem? How did you inspire a bandmate to live their best metal life as an avatar?
I like that. It's the power move says that there's no performance pool or cost because it's a passive.
Mm-hmm.
Then we get to Fenrir. You know that strength comes in the form of a broken decibel meter. Okay. Do you feel the ground shake? That is the beat of his heart. Listen to the rhythm of Fenrir and know their true power. The avatars of Fenrir are unyielding, immovable objects, proud, stubborn, and a respect and love of power above all things in any shape or form. Followers of Fenrir tend to move forward with little regard for potential dangers ahead. Sure, they tend to overcompensate, but they are also practical and harbor the unwavering belief that anything can be accomplished if one just fucking tries hard enough. They are the heavy metal personification of thrash metal. Examples are Motorhead, Anthrax, and Slayer. I'd say that's a pretty accurate spread.
Mm-hmm.
Immediate effects for their skills: +1 to Brawn, +1 to Wilds. The power move, Furious. The followers of Fenrir kick ass first and ask questions never. As they grow in power, they often lose their tempers at the slightest provocation or perceived insult. This can lead to a life outside of a band, a sad existence of a soloing adventurer, of solo adventuring in the wilds of Ragnarok. Add one temporary hit on your meat track, but reduce your feedback threshold by 1 until the end of the session. Activation, in combat as a basic thing. Basic thing is capitalized, meaning that we'll probably get more explanation when we get to combat.
Mm-hmm.
Performance pool none, cost is 1 dedication. Glory questions. Did you take someone bigger than you down a notch? How did you flex your might in Ragnarok so that others besides your bandmates may bear witness? Witness me! Did you charge headlong into a dangerous situation to save a bandmate? I'm going to put something here combined with both the description of Fenrir and the power move.
Mm-hmm.
This reminds me of people who play Bruja in the worst way.
You might want to explain Bruja for those unaware.
Okay, so Bruja, first of all, no, this is not Bruja as in this Hispanic word for witch, though it was derived from that, if I remember correctly. They are one of the vampire clans that you can, be a part of playing Vampire the Masquerade.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically, they're usually a part of the Camarilla. The Bruja are, for lack of a better word, enforcers. They tend to be the muscle. They tend to be the type of big guys that stand in the way and make sure that you can't get to the people in charge. You'd think of them as security, police, military enforcers. And one of the things is they do have a violent temper. And that's part of the curse that vampires have. Each of them has a curse that makes them, that gives their clan a weakness, except for technically the Tremere, but I won't get into that. But the Bruja do have an uncontrollable temper, and I have seen people roleplay that in the worst way, especially considering that they have a compulsion for rebellion as well. So you can imagine that there are players who just take this to its ultimate extreme, and you're like, I don't want you playing that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now I have to laugh. Melvisa Productions. I The fact that you combined Gods of Metal Ragnarok with Metal Gear Rising Revengeance. I don't think they're far off, actually. Consider the entire soundtrack for Metal Gear Rising Revengeance and what you do in it. It might as well be something playing out somewhere in Ragnarok. Might as well. But like I said, the potential for someone to play an Avatar Fenrir in the worst way possible, I can see it. But hopefully, anyone who's playing a heavy metal game knows that if you're that guy, if you're that asshole, and you're playing with other metalheads, you're gonna get your shit kicked in, figuratively and sometimes literally. I'd also like to point out that it looks like we have more artifacts. Like personification has just been personification in all the other ones, and this one says heavy metal personification. And we also have no indication of what their domains are, either in Fenrir's explanation text or in the list. So there's a little bit of artifacting, a little bit of formatting that didn't happen here. But I'll leave Kekatari to you.
Yep. Precision and efficiency are all that's important. The avatars of Kekatari are creatures of knowledge and skill. Precision and efficiency are all that's important to them. They spend their entire existence perfecting their craft and adore all things made with skill and finesse. Life is one giant solo, and everyone should bow to their mind-exploding skills. Personification, speed metal. Examples given are Megadeth, Dark Throne, and Dragon Force. Skills are...
I mean, Dragon Force fits, for sure.
Skills are +1 cram and +1 stunts. Power move is overconfidence. As they grow in power, avatars can become more and more boisterous and cocksure until their egos become larger than their abilities. Once humbled, they may feel compelled to restore their integrity and their abilities to their team members. When an avatar goes on hiatus for the first time in a session, they return with a temporary increase to their speed or damage by 1. This lasts until the end of the scene or combat.
I'd like to point out that hiatus at the top in that sentence there was spelled wrong. The A and the I are transposed.
Activation on hiatus, no performance pool, no cost. Glory questions. How did you solve a problem without laying a finger? What gross misalignment in Ragnarok did you correct? How did you make your band members more enlightened?
That's a loaded question. All right. And then number 5 on the list is calamity. You want yourself and others to live in constant emotional pain. Followers of calamity are moody and broody. Their avatars believe that they carry the curse of suffering, and theirs is a burden that makes them stronger than other individuals, which can sometimes translate into a need to share it or carry so that others don't have to. Calamity's followers do not fear death and will stand against whatever danger is present. They work hard to achieve wealth, notoriety, and power, then immediately will throw it away because they feel they don't deserve it. The personification of calamity is death metal. Examples include Cannibal Corpse, Death Clock, and Ginger. That's quite the eclectic selection. The immediate benefits are +1 for their skills, +1 to feelings, and +1 to pharmacopoeia. Their power move is ennui. Nothing matters. As their power grows, avatars can lose their emotional connections to the world around them. The first time this avatar would increase the schmooze skill, instead do not. It's activated during advancement. That doesn't seem like a power move. That seems like a deficit. That seems like a penalty. Performance pool is none, cost is none. And their glory questions are: did you comfort a creature or denizen in their death? How did you bring unnecessary emotions to a conflict? Did you learn a unique fact or secret about one of your bandmates? We were right about Shrika, though.
Yep. You don't need to be the best, you just have to look the best while doing it. Why not both? Followers of
Porque
Shrika,
los dos.
yeah, followers of Shrika are coy, charming, and tenacious, constantly searching for the next great moment. Shrika's avatars want nothing more than to be the name on the lips of every denizen imaginable, even if that means fudging the details a little bit. Avatars of Shrika will use their talents to navigate their way around Ragnarock, all the while providing a good story to tell over drinks. They'll also need to think outside the box to solve an issue. Enchantment and bedazzlement are their finest qualities, and due to their unending charm, they often do. Many can even change their shape and form, and once it has lost its use or pleasingness to them, they leave it behind like a snake sheds its skin. Personification, glam metal. Examples are Kiss, Motley Crue, Lita Ford, and Twisted Sister. I'd say that tracks.
We did say that it was glam metal when we saw it, so.
Skills, +1 legendsmithing, +1 streets. Power move is Vainglorious. As an avatar gains power and reputation in the service of Shrika, they can become insufferable to be around, as they constantly spout off about the glory they represent. During downtime or the start of combat, roll your exposure and add any feedback generated. Activation, downtime, or start of combat. No performance pool, no cost. Then the glory questions. How did you make your life more comfortable? What did you do to save a creature/denizen? And how did you use your skills to save the bandmates from serious trouble? Let's see, and then we have the unaligned. I'll take this one.
All right.
Well, what about this obscure metal god that you've never heard of? See the Metal Maestro section, page 128, for details on the tone abilities, creation, and construction of custom metal gods. Much like with the tones, you'll
I think that's a different section.
Yeah, I got thrown off by the layout.
Wait, hold on. Yeah, because that's not about tones. I'm pretty sure this is a positions at this point.
Yep.
Um,
Speaking of which, I'll let you take positions.
Okay. To refine your abilities and powers of an avatar of metal in Ragnarok, you'll need to determine your position. A position works similarly to the way that class does in epic fun time fantasy RPGs, trademark. Keep in mind that your position does not determine what instrument you play, or even if you play one at all. In fact, shredders are the only position required to have an instrument. Everyone else can have bows, guns, staves, axes, hammers, whatever you feel aligns with your avatar. Well, if they have an axe, isn't that an instrument? Come on.
Oh,
That was called for and you know it.
Remember, folks, a wall is just a door with a different kind of key.
Well, I was mostly referring to the fact that a lot of guitars have been referred to as axes over the ages. That being said, we do recommend that you and your gaming group fill out as many roles as you can just for versatility's sake. This is still at its core a fantasy game. Your character does not necessarily have to be a walking musical pun. The most interesting and diverse bands are usually the ones that have a combination of instrument-centric and non-instrument-centric weapons. Go back and bathe in all the classic fantasy epics that helped shape the genre. Draw from your love of whatever you think is cool. Swords and sorcery and high-powered fantastical adventure stuff fits nice and snugly into this game. You want guns? Axes? Go for it. If it can be painted on the side of your cousin's panel van, we're down. Much like with the tones, you'll also find glory questions for each position, which will give an idea of what kind of questions the Metal Maestro might ask you at the end of each sessions in order to award glory. And it once again references the glory section on page 122. And then...
I think for the positions, we'll focus on like the first section and then jump straight into playing a part. Or should we just go with the playing and part for each of the positions?
I think we knew that this was going to be a longer episode, Monk. And I'm looking at the explanations of each one. It's clear that there's some explanations of the beginnings, but I think we should read the little boxes at the top and then the playing A.
All right.
So I'll start with Amp Lords.
Mm-hmm.
Just give me a sec. A large bull-headed avatar in a jean jacket and ripped shorts says as they're lifting a hot rod with exposed 12-cylinder engine above their head with one hand, and a wrench deep in its gears with the other. A tiny black and silver box with eyeballs and teeth skitters around on several spiderly legs, tongue lolling on the ground as it excitedly paces back and forth. On the other side of the clearing, a huge burly man with a microwave for a head showing an electronic grimace is currently pinching down onto a demon dog with its huge multi-use arm as it repeatedly punches the creature in the gut. No worries, I got all day. It moves back to the oversized steer. Playing an Amp Lord. There are a couple of methods of gear construction that Amp Lords can utilize. They can sweet talk gear spirits into bettering the tools, or they can, all by themselves, build and imbue gear with powers. All gear in Ragnarock holds a magical power called Resonance. Amp Lords have learned to tap into the powers nestled inside of the gear in order to bring forth a variety of spirits, also known as Amplings. Amplings can maximize the gear's potential, provided that the gear-wielding avatar can convince the little phantoms to offer aid and support. If wooed correctly, the Amplings will greatly enhance the gear's power and abilities. Sometimes an Amp Lord will construct a gig box that gets inhabited by Amplings, who will then help the Amp Lord in quick construction and repairs during the Amp Lord's adventures. Example glory question: how did you take something hopeless and turn it into a possibility? Mm-hmm. So it looks like the Amp Lords are
artificers.
I think they're better than artificers, but yes, they're the answer to the question of how do craft stuff in game.
Yep. So next we have brutalizers. Black hair cracks like a whip as the body of a barely armored champion arches, crescent moon-like, above the screaming manticore. And hello there, Savannah. Welcome thank you for joining. I need to work on the I could have swore I had the audio fixed on that. I'll have to take care of that later. Dealing with the StreamYard updates. Not a pair of leather gauntlets, both flecked with studs shaped like fists, clasp an axe-shaped guitar. The guitar swings down, cleaving through the tail of the scorpion lion beast. Blood gushes from its back as the beast roars off into the night. Meanwhile, a tall blonde woman, leather jerkin and cape billowing behind her, sends wave after wave of daggers to pelt a defiant Etten into the shape of an upside-down cross. A jeans-clad, makeup-smeared, spike-armored avatar power slides beneath the hulking lava troll. Arm blades outstretched, they slide each one neatly into the soft wrists of the enemy. Brutalizers, as the name would suggest, are brutal. They are quick to fight and even quicker to kill, often in wildly elaborate and creative ways. Brutalizer's abilities focus on either finesse or strength, and will always be centered on absorbing and dealing as much damage as possible. If you are considering playing a Brutalizer, consider an important question. How does your character want to kill things? What in Mundania triggered the kind of sheer rage that could only be embodied by a Brutalizer? Also, how do they channel their anger on the rare occasion that they don't have something in front of them to maim or slaughter? Example glory question: how did one throw caution to the wind and save the band? There's a bit of a typo there, but
it's a lack of a space.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to point out that in the part that we didn't read about brutalizers, there's this little ditty here. Brutalizers have no qualms about getting in deep and hard. At least that's what your mom said. I love it. Then we get to Bloodguards, and that is how you would say that with the U with an umlaut. I know most people are going to be like, it's just a aesthetic umlaut like you see with all the metal bands out there. And to you, I say, fuck you. I'll pronounce it how I want. The clouds part. A dazzling beam of light shines down upon a metal-clad man with bull horns and shaggy fur. He raises his hammer into the light before lobbing it straight into a poser. Somewhere, a choir is singing. A bald woman wearing glittering bone earrings, corpse paint, makeup, and a robe reaches one hand toward her injured bandmate. Grasping a raven's head with her other hand, she speaks of the bandmate's foolishness and vows to take his pain. Slowly, his wounds heal. Simultaneously, a fresh scar appears on the woman in exactly the spot the bandmate's injury was. Playing a Blutgard. This actually sounds like we're getting a paladin here. Just gonna say.
Mm-hmm.
Blutguards are characters that use their abilities to guard and support their bandmates. This does not make them inefficient in combat. It just means they get off on picking up people more than they do knocking them down. Denizens of Mundania who become Blutguards often had something important in their lives they eternally sought to protect. Perhaps it was a pet, perhaps a family member. Maybe it was even a work crush who barely ever acknowledged them, but hope sprang eternal. And the example glory questions we have here are, did you save someone in need? And did you offer up the most dedications to the altar during this session?
So then we have Cord Masters. A tall, lizard-like man stands with a quarterstaff, spinning it in a slow circle until it separates into 3 pieces linked by metal rings. The spinning continues, faster now, and lightning begins to crackle off this circling weapon. The lizard man smiles, his face alighted by the sparkler-like fingers of electricity that stab out of the staff. Motherfucker, they're monks.
I mean, it says it right there. Elementalist monks.
Mm-hmm. Cordmasters hone their elemental powers day and night, disciplining their bodies in harrowing acts of focus, strength, and fortitude.
Monk. Playing a Cordmaster is 2 sections above that.
Oh, right. Sorry about that.
Righteous Vow and Elemental Enlightenment are part of it.
Yep. A Cordmaster exists in extremes. Extreme sacrifice, extreme joy, and extreme suffering, all endured for the possibility of achieving extreme triumph. Everything about playing a Cordmaster, from your identity to your face to your very corporeal form, can be used to serve your character's chord comprehension. Understanding the chord is of utmost importance to Cordmasters, and to do so, your character will utilize sudden, decisive movements, wield weapons or instruments that harness the power of the elements, and eschew bulky gear. Then there's the Righteous Vow. Righteous vows are one stage above righteous causes. A righteous vow turns your cause into an identity. As a result, Cordmasters are often masked after they have taken their vows. They wish to remove the distractions of self from their pursuit of ultimate elemental awesomeness. And
they're definitely monks.
Then elemental enlightenment. Cordmasters hone their elemental powers day and night, disciplining their bodies in harrowing acts of focus, strength, and fortitude. For their discipline, they tend to be rewarded with awesome results in combat. As they achieve their goals and grow in notoriety, they are often gifted with a token of elemental enlightenment. One of their limbs dissolves and is replaced by a comparable substitute made from the radiant energies of their favorite element. Eventually, limb by limb, their bodies are totally consumed by their devotion and they achieve complete elemental enlightenment. They are then reborn as the untainted, crackling energy of their chosen element. Example glory question, how did you manifest your righteous vow into reality this session?
Does that make me a Cordmaster monk? I am the Dragon of Chaos and Metal, so... With that, we move on to the Howlers. A black-haired, curvy woman with tattoos covering her pale skin drops to the ground. As she carves sigils into the ground with her long claws, she sings a sickly song. Her cry pierces the sky. From her hunched back, a creature of rock and lava emerges, growing exponentially in size with every beat of its heart. A tiny bearded man, a blend of leather-clad garden gnome and mad science. Fucking sentence. Holds a small wind-up scorpion in his hands. The scorpion's red eyes and steel tail glisten in the sun as its mechanisms come to life. As the man's melodic humming carries on the wind, he places the scorpion on the ground. It hurriedly scuttles towards the charging skeleton warriors. As it crawls forward, 100 identical clockwork scorpions appear from behind the man, flanking it. The man cracks a jagged smile as the onslaught begins. Playing a Howler. Howler are summoners by nature, but they aren't limited to summoning. While their physical strength is not very remarkable, they can be a versatile presence in many situations. Their role has more chance of increasing feedback than the other positions do. However, howlers are capable of great destruction for those willing to take the risk in playing them. Glory question. What did you do to make one of your bandmates feel center stage? They summon through song, Monk. They're bards.
Yep.
They're bards. They are the bardiest of all the positions, even though every position, being a metalhead, is a bard in its own right.
Mm-hmm. So then we have Shredders. Shrouded in a long leather trench coat, a man walks into a group of jeering, toothy goblins. He pulls a guitar from under his arm. A single strum later, dozens of firing projectiles erupt from the instrument, and all the goblins crumble into tiny pieces at his feet. He turns, and his dark cloak transforms into wings as he takes off into the sky. A muscled woman, six-eyed bearskin pinned across her broad shoulders, raises two massive wooden drumsticks into the sky. She begins banging the space in front of her. Sparks fly as the sticks strike the air. The loud drumming fills the night. The rhythm builds as she lunges forward, pummeling the centaur in front of her, each concussive hit causing more bone damage than the last.
Kamen Rider Hibiki, is that you?
Hibiki and Todoroki?
Yeah. Todoroki is there too as well.
Mm-hmm.
With the guitar.
Yep. To play a shredder is to really embrace the concept of magical instruments. Shredders tend to be highly versatile, able to take on many different roles in combat situations. Mundanians who are musically inclined often become shredders in Ragnarock. Task-focused hobbyists make good shredders. Example, glory question, how did you become closer to your instrument?
And no, you're not William Murderface. You're not playing your bass with your dick.
No.
But that seems to end the position section as we get into the skills section.
Yep.
And I would like to point out that every skill has a list of example things that tributes for that skill can be used for.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think we need to read out those lists. Reading out the skill itself was probably enough, and maybe one thing from the list that's kind of unorthodox. I think is the best way to go here.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll take the first page here. Skills are the primary means by which to get things done, both inside and outside of combat, in Gods of Metal Ragnarok. Skills have numbers attached to them that range from 1 to 10, with each value equaling the number of d4s that make up your performance pool when the skill is enacted. All skills have a base value of 1 point, and avatars can distribute 13 points plus 1 point per starting notoriety. These points get distributed amongst the skills depending on what you want your avatar to be trained in and how adept you want them to be at in any given skill. At no point may an avatar have a skill higher than 4 plus their notoriety. So an avatar starting with a notoriety of 0, they can add up to 4 points into any of their skills.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have Brawn, which is strength. This skill is all about the sheer amount of beefcakery you're sporting. It doesn't necessarily translate to damage, but it's always fun when it does. And okay. From the list of things that tributes from this can be used for, I'm going to use pulling heavy loads. That's what she said. I had to. It was right there. Then we have cram, which is knowledge. This skill is focused on the learned art of learning and how many learning facts you can fit into learntabulous cranium of yours. Tribute, the one that I like here for the what tribute's going to be used for speaking street ogre, so you can blend in better with the locals. Implore, which is a religion type skill, apparently. Do you truly understand the wills of the gods and their oft mysterious ways, or are you just really good at groveling before them? This skill deals with everything god related in Ragnarok. So tributes can be used for, I think the most interesting one here is actually determining an avatar's tone if it isn't obvious. That could be really useful, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Forge, hands-on knowledge. You can't learn everything you need to know from book learning. Sometimes you got to buckle down and get your hands dirty. That's what this skill is about. Tributes can be used for things like identifying cool and especially cool and well-made shit. Making fire with wet sticks and a fart. All right. Next page is yours, Monk.
Yep. Next is feelings, or empathy. Like you, the creatures in Ragnarok have emotions. Lots of them. So do you talk them off the cliff or shove them over it?
And what do you think the most entertaining use from that list is?
Observing that the lich over there looks like it's having a very bad day, and then determining what you can do/say to make it worse.
I knew you would.
Let's see. And then we have legend smithing, or persuade. Being well known in Ragnarok is important. How do you get it to people's heads that you're an amazing being that has accomplished a buttload of amazing tasks? Legend smithing. That is, the talent of making your story bigger, better, and more amazing than anyone else can. It's not that you need to get inside that place, no. It's just that you need to get inside that place because otherwise the haunted ghost stallion is going to kill the king with his bladed ghost hooves. And as far as which one of the tributes I like, convincing your powerful foes that they are nothing, less than nothing, a booger dangling off the nostril of humanity. See, then we have Magicka, or reality bending. Magicka is the fancy name for how avatars can use the cord of creation to bend the reality of Ragnarok to their designs and whims. Not only can they use Magicka to fend off opposing magical forces, but they can also create slick special effects with it.
Like special effects, I like that.
Mm-hmm. And I'd say the tribute that I like here is wafting the feeling of Magicka into the air, man.
I'm going to reset. I'm going to re-say that one for you because I know what they're trying to go for here, and it's Tommy Chong. Mm-hmm. Wafting the feeling of Magicka into the air, man. There you go.
Then we have Pharmacopoeia, medicine/healing. Avatars get pummeled. A lot. Who's going to patch them up? Sure, your band may have some healing magic available, but really, who's everyone going to turn to when that asshole, you know the one, is face down in the dirt? That's right, you. What's up, poison enthusiasts of Ragnarok? As far as which of the tributes I like, making healing poultices/crafting items
poultices. Healing poultices.
Making healing poultices/crafting items/cooking delicious meals out of local flora/defeated monsters/your mom.
And then on this page, your mom jokes are all over this book. I love it. On this page, the next thing we have is slink, which is stealth. Sometimes you want to run directly into the fray and rip apart everything your eyes behold, and sometimes you prefer the back door option. Giggity. No one wants to go back to that place, so living to fight another day is always a valid, no-shame option. Tributes can be used for things like sleight of hand shit. Oh, did you want your beer back? Then we have stunts, which is athletics. If you're physically trying to make something happen with your body, that's what she said disappointedly. This is the skill you need. You know, it's hard to choose a good one here. It's really hard to choose a good one here. I'm. Hold on. I have to. I have to flip a coin. Hold on.
Oh boy.
Yeah, they're all but one of them is like the best. What is heads and what is tails, Monk? One or two?
Heads.
Well, is it one? Is it number one or number two? Is heads one or heads two?
1.
Okay. So tails is two, which means I'm going to take the one that I like that's second in the list, which is catching a buzzing chainsaw without losing something important. Hand, head, what have you. The other one I was going to take was the very first one.
Mm-hmm.
Streets, also known as probably city knowledge. The world of Ragnarok is filled with cities, modern metropolises, medieval townships, floating fortresses, and automated neo-sprawls. Navigating these streets is a skill unto itself. Tributes can be used for things like tracking down someone who can read that stupid scroll you've been carrying around after you all fail the cram check. And then finally we have wilds, which is wilderness lore. Do you have what it takes to guide your band through the untamed frontiers of Ragnarok? The best adventurers aren't found at the end of paved roads, my lads and lassies. So knowing how to deal with wild creatures, toxic plants, or literal pitfalls is paramount. And as for tributes, turning a Ragnasaurus Rex into a jungle ride.
That one's good, but one I like in that list was discerning the difference between quicksand and slow sand.
I like that one too. That one's pretty good.
And then we have natural dampening. There aren't any perception checks in Ragnarok. Thank you. Because noticing something's typo isn't really a specialized skill. If you're stuck in an area and need a hint of what to do next, or if you're the Metal Maestro and see your players struggling, just help them out or burn a dedication from the altar. They put hints in puzzle rooms and video games for a reason. For skill levels 5 or higher, reduce 1 feedback. For skill levels 8 or higher, reduce 2 feedback. Then we have notice. Noticing things isn't a skill. Stupid. I mean, it is in relationships and like when you're an airplane pilot. But yeah, no, not in this game. Just use a dedication on the altar to gain a hint from the Metal Maestro if you need one.
Hold on. I'm going to read this example because it's actually pretty funny. Example, the Metal Maestro is currently describing a room where a large stone door stands in front of them. After several minutes of investigating the area for enemies and traps, the players aren't sure how to proceed. The Metal Maestro helps a bit by describing the shape of a keyhole, hoping that they'll find the shape familiar. Yo, can we order pizza? Can I make a perception check? Spend a dedication, they tell the group. They do, and the Metal Maestro reminds the team that they have a long femur bone they picked up earlier because it was shiny and jewel encrusted, and that the keyhole is the same shape as the head of the femur. They place it in the keyhole and advance into the fortress.
Oh, then we have gear. While your avatar may own and carry around whatever hunks of equipment you deem important, gear in Gods of Metal Ragnarok is a more focused collection of things. All avatars of Ragnarok, once they cross the threshold of the umbilical spiral, are fitted with 3 special items. These items are deeply personal to your avatar, and they symbolize the character's spirit far more than do the trinkets that might fill their pockets and haversacks. Each avatar has the following gear they can customize how they want. A weapon, which defines your might and attack, an outfit, which defines your defense and tolerance, and an accessory, which defines your speed and exposure. What kind of weapons can I have? Short answer. What is this? Mother may I? I ain't your keeper. Brandish whatever the hell you want at your enemies. Want to hurl a squid at them? Do it, you beautiful squid-throwing bastard. Long answer. I mean, sure, you can manifest your weapon in whatever form you like. Spear, bow, axe, hammer, longbow, fish dart, mine bow.
Tenacious D reference. How about the ability to kill a yak from 100 yards away with
With
mine
mine
bullets?
bullets!
That's telekinesis, Kyle.
However, that does not necessarily mean your weapon of choice will immediately be perfect in every single way and give you a one-way ticket to the Celestial Gates. Just like your avatar, your weapon grows up with you. Like an obstinate sibling that's great at killing things. We have gear stats. Gear stats determine the performance pools often formed in combat. They increase as you adventure through Ragnarock. As you earn resonance, your gear stats will increase. See Chapter 8 Character Advancement, we'll get to that later. For more details, for now, you should know what each piece of gear starts at the following levels. Then we have weapon starting attributes. Weapons provide two attributes which are used exclusively for combat: might and attack. In a game of kicking ass and taking names, you could argue these are the most important attributes. Attack: how many dice do you throw to make an attack? At notoriety 0, you have a starting attack of 3 and will choose whether it's a ranged or melee weapon. Magic: might. What the hell am I thinking?
This is not Heroes of Might and Magic, Monk. I know what you're thinking.
This is not Heroes of a tiny teensy bit of might and shitloads of magic.
Everybody knows that the way to game Heroes of Might, the HOM games, is just to fucking abuse magic. Magic is fucking broken in Heroes of Might and Magic, people. Let's just tell you that.
And also get the genie, depending on which version you're going with. Just get the genie, and the rest of the game plays itself. But might: how much damage your weapon does with each tribute spent. At notoriety 0, an avatar has a starting might of 1 or 2. If you choose a melee weapon, your base might will be 2, its range is grabbing distance. If you choose a ranged weapon, your base might will be 1, its range is spitting distance. For more information on combat zones and distances, see page 78. We'll do that later. These attributes will increase when enough resonance has been gathered and you advance the gear's amplification level, on page 123.
I'd like to point out a statement from Dragon. He says, "My weapon is your mom, which causes emotional damage." Man, I wish we had a soundboard for Stephen He. Emotional damage! There you go. My best imitation of a Chinese man, or Chinese American man, imitating a stereotypical Chinese accent. You know, Dragon, you could actually probably get away with that in this game unless it were me or Monk running the session. He said he wanted to play a character called Puff the Magic Dragon.
If you want to do that at somebody else's table, that's fine.
Like I said, if it's you or I, we're going to tell him to fuck off.
Mm-hmm. And we have outfit starting attributes. Outfits provide defense and tolerance attributes, protecting you from incoming damage as well as just looking fine as fuck. Defense is how much dice you roll to negate damage. At notoriety 0, your avatar has a starting defense of 3. And tolerance, how much damage you can take before you mark a hit on your meat track. At notoriety 0, you have a starting tolerance of 1. Then we have accessory starting attributes. Accessories determine how nimble and quick to react you are in combat, as well as being the thing that helps pick you out of a crowd of demigods. And we have speed, how many dice you throw to change your tempo, also determines your relocation distance. At notoriety 0, an avatar has a starting speed of 3. So we'll get into it later, but I get the feeling we are not going to be doing full Theater of the Mind. We're going to be doing a kind of half-in thing, like what we do with Sword World or what we kind of did with Cloudbreaker.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is going to be like Sword World's different zones, with a simplified combat.
Yep. Then we have exposure, how much liquid credibility you have at the start of an adventure. At notoriety 0, an avatar has starting exposure of 1. Although they put in starting twice in the thing.
A starting exposure, yeah.
Once you've placed your starting attributes, you'll now choose power moves to customize your avatar of metal even further. These special abilities are the core of really showing what the power that your demigod wields with their gear. And we have a sidebar about what is amplification and resonance. Amplification is the power level of your weapon. Resonance is similar to experience points in other lamer games, trademark. Both come from defeating enemies, which is what every good murder hobo should do. As you'll find more magical weaponry, and by find we mean pluck unceremoniously from the stiffening fingers of your nemesis' fresh corpses. Your gear will grow and increase in resonance, and then amplification. All of this is covered in more depth within the character advancement section.
Yep. I'd also like to remind everybody that exposure as a stat, because it's probably the one that's the most esoteric if you don't remember us reading the gallery, the glossary from last episode, is not exactly money, but it's the whole, hey, I know a guy who knows a guy, so you get freebies and all that sort of stuff from the people around you. It's literally more precious than money, because while it can get you free shit and into places you would normally get into, it's a little more powerful in that respect, because the more famous you are. But with that, we move on to power moves. What makes avatars so special, besides the fact that they're badass demigods, are their power moves. Supernatural abilities that are often expressed through their gear, their weapons, outfits, or accessories. They're what allow them to throw lightning, turn stone into goo, and charge like a herd of ghost buffalo into a raging Ragnasaurus Rex. Power moves are accumulated as an avatar grows in notoriety. At notoriety 0, or fresh out of the umbilical descent, you'll choose 3. We've given a more conservative selection in the power moves chapter, but essentially you get to choose from each of the following lists. 1 power move from the general power moves list, 1 power move from the list matching your tone, and 1 power move from the list matching your position. We've provided enough I think that's a typo. We've provided enough choices that 2 avatars that share a tone and position can be wildly different from one another based on the various paths they choose. However, we encourage creative players and their their music maestro to come up with metal maestro. Excuse me, what am I thinking? Metal maestro to come up with their own power moves. Each time an avatar increases in notoriety, they'll unlock a new power move from one of the 3 categories. Head on over to Chapter 6 and pick your power moves. Take your time. We're not going anywhere. And then this last section, answering the call. When your life sucks and is about to get worse, take heart. The metal gods are watching, and your pain is their muse. In this final stage before the start of your journey, we highly recommend that you and your Metal Maestro discuss how your character heard and responded to the call to Ragnarock. Here are a few guidelines. Transformation into a metal avatar always happens to a Mundanian citizen. No pets, please. The situation of the Mundanian citizen usually always sucks. The suffering and tedium have become too much for the Mundanian citizen to handle. The cinder of rage, injustice, and rebellion blooms into a bonfire of the Mundanian soul. This inferno draws in the Rogna school like a moth to a flame. The appearance of the Rogna school is usually violent and destructive. All of this is up to the players and the Metal Maestro, but it should be a culmination of everything that's been established during the character creation process. The call to Ragnarok is the way that your avatar's origin led them down a pathway that snakes towards legendhood. The inciting incident can be brutal or benign. Did the character break their leg and now hungry cats are licking their kitty lips at the sight of hobbled prey? Has that one guy from accounting said the phrase, Mondays, am I right? Just one too many times for the character to endure? Man, that's going to be a Wanted reference. Is the giant paper... There is a... I do not like this, Sam I am. I do not like green eggs and ham. I hate it when people use the English word paper and then mache, because... the proper term is papier-mâché that we just pronounced as papier-mâché because none of us are French, but it still needs to be spelled papier, P-A-P-I-E-R hyphen mâché. Is the giant papier-mâché mascot of the corporate hedgehog about to crush them? Wait a minute, Sega? Is that you? Did their significant other leave them with 3 kids, a hopeless job, no car, and a note criticizing the character's sexual ineptitude? Man, their avatar is going to be a sex god at that rate. At this moment, time stands still. The rage caused by years of suffering and tedium finally reaches a boiling point, and the character is lost in the twilight realm of secret thoughts. That is, until Rognaskool claims them through a violent outburst that matches their own internal pain. And there's a small explanation of Rognaskool here. The psychopumps who offer the gift of Ragnarock to the Mundanian mortals are collectively referred to as the Rognaskool. The form the Rognaskool takes is unique to each individual who ascends to Ragnarok. It could take on the appearance of an archangel, a busty Valkyrie, or Charon. It could even appear as a metal race car with rainbows blasting from the tailpipe. Brutal Legend, is that you again? The Rognaskool appears at the moment the call to Ragnarok is heard, often when a Mundanian serf is at their lowest and most desperate.
And I just realized who would end up in unfortunate form, the perfect setup for someone crossing the border between a Mundanian to an Avatar.
Yeah.
You remember Falling Down?
Go ahead, Monk. Explain it to the people.
Well, the best way for me to describe Falling Down, aside from the fact that it's a demonstration that Schumacher is not the hack that a lot of Batman fans thought he is all it takes is one bad day.
Yep. Fallen Down's a great movie. I love that movie. And it's really tragic what happens in the end, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you've probably actually seen Falling Down as a meme where it's Michael Douglas who looks like a typical salaryman without the suit coat on. He's got the tie, the flat top haircut, the glasses, the briefcase, and then a shotgun in the other hand. And it basically becomes the very worst day for the character he plays. So bad that he doesn't see life as worth it anymore at the end. This is a really bad one.
Mm-hmm. But
yes, you would be right that instead of at the very end dying, time would stop. The Rognaskool would come for Bill Foster, and all of a sudden we would get whatever avatar of Bill Foster would be.
Why do I have this image of John Carter as what his avatar would look like?
So sure on that one.
Mm-hmm.
But there are numerous examples we could pull from any movie or pop culture, anything that could become an avatar. But I once again have to make my my Pierce Anthony comparisons. The Rognaskool appearing at your lowest point in life reminds me a lot of Pierce Anthony's Incarnations of Immortality series, specifically On a Pale Horse, where the holder of the Incarnation of Death, the title being Thanatos, obviously, eventually becomes so fed up and jaded with their job that they show up in front of someone whose soul they're supposed to collect visibly, and that person kills Death, thus assuming their mantle. It's not exactly the same, but it feels very close to it. Also, once again, the fact that the entire world is called Mundania, and it's just supposed to be an analogy to our increasingly automated and mechanized world. That's never going to stop making me think, we're just going to Xanth. We're just going to a very violent metal Xanth. That's all I can think.
This also means, and I'm gonna really piss some people off with this, but I don't care. This is technically an isekai.
Not technically, it absolutely is an isekai.
I know I bring that up on multiple occasions, but that's only because some people have this massive, unnecessary hate boner for isekai,
Yep.
even though the concept has been around for over a century.
Yep. Going to another world has been around not for over a century. It's probably been around for millennia. Maybe it's only been formally recognized within the last couple centuries, but even then.
The concept is not new. The only thing that's new is the word isekai in the lexicon.
Yeah. Pork Chop also has a good point that it wouldn't be when they die, but more when they're about to break down. Yes, like I said, it wasn't an exact one for one. It was just a comparison to how it feels like. Yeah, Through the Looking Glass and Narnia are definitely.
And
Okay, Pork Chop came up with an isekai title for this. That time I lost my goddamn mind and got tossed into the heavy metal world made by the gods of metal. And that checks out. That's an isekai title for a light novel.
if I ever run Gods of Metal, I'm stealing that as far as the title.
Better copy and paste it to a random notepad at this point, Mark. We will even accredit Pork Chop. We'll be like, yo, we got this title from Pork Chop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll
YouTube just dropped you in this live and you're gonna let it ride. You're so lost. I'll let you know right now, Mr. West, you're basically at the tail end of this whole thing. We've read the whole character creation chapter for a tabletop RPG known as Gods of Metal Ragnarok.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a game about being metal as fuck. The VOD will be up after we finish streaming. You can check it. You can rewatch it on Mildred's channel.
Mm-hmm.
But right now we're just kind of doing the same thing we do at the end of every section of a Valley of the Judged we do, and spitballing things about the chapter we just read.
Mm-hmm. And thank you, Sam Vanner, for subscribing with Prime.
Yep. In the end, Monk. You know who's a prime candidate for an avatar?
Mm-hmm. Who?
Me in 2013. And you know why. We've discussed that.
Oh, I know why.
The Dragon of Metal and Chaos would definitely arise at that time.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. Let's see. Who? Is there any characters that aren't immediately obvious that you still think would go to become an avatar? You know who I think would become an avatar, and at what point they would become one?
Who?
Shiro. Just before he actually reminds himself of his aspirations to become a hero while fighting Archer on the Unlimited Blade Works route, because he loses all heart at one point. That's his lowest point. So I don't. If Shiro were subjected to the fall into the umbilical descent, and then of course Ragnarok itself, just how fucked would Ragnarok be? Because Unlimited Blade Works would go with him for sure.
Although, as far as who, I feel like the person who would end up plucking him, or the god that he would focus, would be Diomedes.
Diomedes or Kekatari, because of the whole perfecting your craft thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because the entire reason Unlimited Blade Works really becomes powerful is because he gets more and more trace power.
Yep. That being said, I'm still very much reminded of Scion more than anything else with how this is designed. especially with how it seems power moves are organized. It very much reminds me of the divine gifts in Scion and how they were organized into these little subcategories, aside from the ones that are based the um, on the pantheons.
Yeah.
And of course, each of the pantheons back with Scion. I haven't read Scion Second Edition. I don't plan to, because fuck Onyx Path. Each of them had one unique ability, and each of the gods here has one unique power move, even though some of them don't kind of stretch the whole power part.
Most of them actually feel like penalties. Like even Diomidius's, which is a passive that activates if you roll ones on attack with a fire element attribute weapon. It increases feedback, and for those of you who don't remember, when you generate feedback, it starts increasing towards your feedback threshold, and when you hit your feedback threshold, your character goes on hiatus, which we'll get into more detail about when we get into the mechanics of the game. But hiatus, to me, because it wasn't actually described in the glossary, sounds like skip a turn. And then of course your wounds are the meat track, obviously.
Yeah.
And it sounds like also there's the implication that if your avatar ever dies, you're sent back to Mundania. That sucks.
Indeed. But what I appreciate is that there's a good amount of customization without falling into certain traps. There's also the fact that because of how wide the possibilities are for setting up your character's equipment, this game isn't even trying to do an equipment list in the traditional sense, which is good. Even though I don't agree with John Wick on his attitude about weapon lists, for instance. I do think that some alternative looks at equipment should be considered.
Well, I think when it comes to weapon lists, I think it goes back to what you and I have talked about with the simulationist mindset. The entire reason we didn't do a weapon list, beyond the fact that there are so many fucking iterations of weapons with the same name in Final Fantasy, that it would be the equipment list would be a book unto itself. We couldn't do it. No, fuck that. Fuck that. We're not doing it, period. But also because we wanted the greatest amount of freedom for customization. We wanted people to be able to customize their weapon to be whatever the fuck they wanted it to be.
We didn't want to play catch up.
Exactly. And so having a system where you flavor your weapon to be whatever the fuck you please. I'm going to wield a giant-ass sword that smashes things. Okay, in our system, great template, cool. You wanted to do smashy, how good do you want it to smash? The smashiest? Okay, put 3 brutal tags on it. There you go. You can re-roll everything from 3 lower to get better damage out of it. There you go. You want it to be the smashiest greatsword that ever smashed. There you go. And so we wanted us to, you could flavor that great weapon to be whatever the fuck you please, including, as some of the pictures we've seen in this book, a giant guitar that is literally an axe at the same time. But weapon lists, I'm sure they appeal to people. I'm sure there are plenty of ways that they appeal to people. I've never liked them.
I've tolerated them in some games, but I honestly think that if you're going to have them, having some decent form of custom weapon creation is a necessity. I know some will say, we'll just reskin the existing ones. That's a bandage. And depending on what sort of game you're dealing with, you're going to run into some sort of weapon that isn't on the list or doesn't have a equivalent.
Yeah, I mean, so let me rephrase. I've never liked weapon lists on games that are supposed to be a bigger gestalt.
A
Like,
wider net when it comes to the genre they're trying to emulate.
yes, which is why, again, with D&D's issue of not of shitting or getting off the pot regarding setting and everything else, their weapon list is A, exceptionally restrictive, and B, exceptionally stupid. You want a katana? Oh, it's just a +1 bastard sword. There you go. Okay. But a +1 masterwork bastard sword, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason I do have to make this caveat is we also reviewed Planetbound. Planetbound setting is very specific, with a very specific set of technology and a very, very specific set of items. So having an equipment list there is good. The equipment list was not very long. We didn't go through it, but it was not very long, and it's very standardized. So that felt a lot better than equipment lists I've seen elsewhere. I really like the approach to gear here, just because each of them have their own 2 sets of stats that do different things.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we've gotten people theory crafting who would drop through the umbilical descent in chat. It seems the Darby brothers and Whole Horse from JoJo being brought up. Do you really need 30 pole arms? Asks Dragon. A list of 30 pole arms would be utterly pedantic, and while there are numerous pole arms or other types of weapons throughout history, they do come in archetypes. Like a pole arm can typically be a pole axe, a halberd, or something along those lines. And then there's variances of those general archetypes throughout history. Just like a spear can be of varying lengths with varying blade types, but they're all spears in the end. I really look forward to getting into gear advancement to see how that changes things and what sort of customization you get with the gear advancement. But that's later down the line. I also, like, every time we complete a section of this, Monk, I'm like, I want to keep reading. I want to keep going. But if we just kept going, we'd be here until like 5 a.m.
Yeah, and I may have a lot of endurance, but not everybody does.
I did a 7-hour stream with the Dreadies. I have the endurance, just not the sanity.
Yeah, there's that too. Then West is saying nobody remembers the Halo plasma gun. Fuck you, nobody remembers that. I do.
But I really like how there is just this great amount of customization with character creation alone. And the fact that character creation can also be done through the Umbilical Descent adventure, I think that's genius for guiding newbies.
Mm-hmm. And hey, the Umbilical Descent adventure would be an easy thing to add into
the Cloister one-shot rotation.
Yes, but I was thinking of like free RPG day.
That too. I still think we should do this for Cloister one-shot at some point.
We'll figure something out.
If we do, I'd like to give you a chance to play and meet a GM. I'll GM the Umbilical Descent for y'all.
Mm-hmm. But that's another story. Now, as far as what we've got down the pipe, the usual stuff won't be happening due to it being a pay-per-view weekend. But that doesn't mean I'm not doing anything. Tomorrow, we will be back with a monastic therapy, this time following up on the last one by covering the wheat from the chaff regarding VTubing. And Sunday, we'll be doing a special edition of Valley of the Judged, covering the recent free prophecy expansion for Veil of the Void. If you guys aren't familiar with Veil of the Void, go back and watch our old series, or just grab the game when you can. It is really damn good. So I look forward to seeing you guys here for that. But until then, on behalf of the good brothers present and not present, my name is Mildra. I am your gaming monk. Stay fucking frosty, everybody.